Sorry, did you say how many students are involved in it?
Right now I have 11, which is the most I've ever had. When I saw I had 11, I kind of panicked a little bit because sort of 6 to 8 is my sweet spot. But we have been more busy this year than ever before. We actually just crunched numbers a couple weeks ago. We sat down. Last year we'd be doing $70 to $80 after school, and now we're doing about $250 after school.
Wow.
So it has absolutely just exploded. When we're open after school, I usually have 4 workers with me, and I'm running the cash register, and we can't keep up. So just come in real quick, grab their stuff, and they're out the door to sports practices or whatever. But Ada came up with one of our menu items this year, a new menu item. That's really good.
We did 2 this year.
Yeah.
It's kind of the coolest thing Fox has let me do is kind of take a creative position on it. We do a Greek salad this year, completely written and made by the staff and me. And then we also do a chicken pesto panini.
So we have about 4 salads and 4 sandwiches or wraps on our menu. And then we're gonna start rotating some specials in that are maybe.
It's kind of our bread and butter. It's kind of the fun stuff we get to do. We do Reuben's, and we even go and get locally sourced rye bread from a bakery just down the street.
And one of the big hits is dill pickle sloppy Joe grilled cheese. We put it all together in a one sandwich, and it's so good.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Oh, thank you. So the two of you, I guess, questions for you, like what skills have you acquired through this process that you can use post-secondary? And are there things that you would like to enter into as far as career fields that are associated with either one of these from the business aspect of it or the culinary aspect of it? I'm just kind of curious where you see yourself.
I think it's kind of what haven't we learned, kind of, because it is, besides a few things, it is completely student ran. Like we do the books, we handle the money to a degree, we write recipes, we do inventory, we write the grocery lists, even just stuff with, a staff member wants to come in and they want to request something, it's something we can usually help with, kind of just invoking the whole restaurant experience.
So they have a list on the board when they walk in every day of what needs to get done. We sit down, we talk about the list, and then they go at it. Tomorrow I have a sub, and we already wrote the list on the board, so they're just gonna go to work. They know what they need to do.
It's a lot of preparatory work, so very repetitive, but it's great to do nonetheless. Getting the food ready to make the lunches. We send lunches over here to FLC. It's not just a Horseman and Bessie Allen. Yeah.
Last year, that kind of took us by surprise. The first time we did that, we had 25 lunches ordered to send over here, and we had about 20 minutes to get them ready, and it didn't work. We were just not ready for that. So we've sort of streamlined that. Aiden comes in on his study hall now to help get lunches ready to send over on Wednesday, so we do that, but.
When you both look at pathways post high school, what are some doorways that it's opening up for you when you go through this experience?
Well, I've been accepted to the University of Wisconsin Stout on the hospitality and tourism management bachelor's degree, and I would like to do that, and hopefully I don't exactly know the specifics of what I'm going to do, but definitely go into the restaurant field.
Ever since starting this class, I've been doing it 3 years now. I still have 1 more year of high school, which I plan on continuing. And
He's sticking with me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I've actually wanted to become a teacher, and specifically family consumer sciences, ever since starting. So, they kind of go hand in hand.
Thank you.
Originally, I think when the program started, the cafe thing started, was there a program, if I'm getting it right, ProServe, perhaps?
ProStart, yep.
Is that?
So
Still part
ProStart
of-
is a curriculum put together by the National Restaurant Association. I still use it in my other classes. We don't so much use it in our hospitality foods class, but my basic foods, my culinary arts, and my advanced culinary, we use that. So yeah, ProStart, and there are competitions and stuff. I just don't have the students here to be able to do the competitions like I used to when I taught at Bondi. It's just a whole different ballgame. Like we can't compete with Badger High School. It's just not something that we have the facilities, the funds, things like that to do. Dream would be to get back at that because the thrill of coaching and taking second place in the state is pretty incredible. But right now we just don't have the number of students that can put in the amount of time needed to do that. But we do still follow their curriculum. We're going on a field trip in a couple of weeks to Lake Geneva, to the resort there for Pro Start. So that's still put together by the State Restaurant Association.
Another thing I recall, there was early on, there were relationships with local restaurant owners too, who said, we need, please, we'll take your employee, your kids or your training people, because there's such a shortage in the, in the food service.
Yep, so I'm
Area.
constantly being contacted by restaurants. Beans and Bites here in town is always like, I need a student, and hours wise, it doesn't always work out for us. I've had Annie from Annie's Mountain City come in and help with my students, things like that. I know a lot of restaurant owners in the area, so I know I can always call on people when I need them. I'm working with Sean Pollock to hopefully come in and do like a pizza demonstration with my students and teach us how to make some amazing pizzas. So yeah, we still have some of those connections too. But yeah, when we first got our latte machine, Annie came in and trained my students on how to use that. We do Collectivo Coffee out of Milwaukee, so they come in and work with us and fix all our equipment and stuff. Some of it's leased through them, so.
Great connections and great networking. And
Yes, we definitely, and I've been visited, people from different schools that I know, some have Zoomed, especially during COVID. I can't even tell you how many times and how many conferences I've spoken at for what we do, because it is so unique and so many people want to replicate it, but it's just that getting started, which I think I'm very lucky I didn't have to be the one to get it started. I walked into it being done, and then had a huge learning curve taking it over. The first couple of years were kind of rough, but this is year 6. So I think I've kind of finally gotten the system down. Takes a while.
Well, it sounds like you're doing an excellent
Well,
job.
thank you. So yeah,
Any other
questions
questions?
for us?
I'm just wondering where we can buy the cookies.
Wait, are they gonna get the
Wait, John,
Can you
wait,
sell them
I don't
there?
think you can get the cookies. The cookies are in high demand.
Yeah.
The line is a-
Sorry.
They're instructed to make 7 dozen for tomorrow, and I think
Wow.
we'll pull out, depending on what sports there are, sometimes we sell 8, 9 dozen after school. Tomorrow, I know middle school has an away game for basketball. Sometimes their coach will bring them in and let them buy snacks and send them on their way. But they don't have basketball, so I was trying to calculate based on that. Sometimes we way overbake, sometimes we way underbake. But when we make a batch of cookie dough, it's 4 pounds of butter, 5 pounds of flour. Like it's a big batch, and we get.
Giving away a recipe.
Well, they don't know the secret ingredient. But yeah, we go through that, probably 3 or 4 of those batches in a week. So and that's one thing with a increase in sales this year, it's been hard for me to sort of calculate and estimate what we need for groceries. And Aiden was just saying to me today, when are you ordering from US Foods again? Because we need this and this and this. And so they keep me on my toes to make sure we've got stuff in there, so.
Well, if you have extra cookies, you can always bring them.
Well, last Thursday, we baked for after school, and then we just weren't open after school, so I sent an email to staff saying we have these cookies, and they were gone in half an hour. I think we baked 6 dozen that day, and staff was all like, yeah, we'll take them. I mean, they're pretty good.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys better have cookies.
How much are the cookies?
They're $1.
$1.
So
It's well worth that $1.
Yeah,
They're like that big, like,
Yeah, they're huge.
they're,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're really nice. Definitely my favorite snack before, my cross-country practice.
Oh my gosh.
All right, then moving on to item G, student council representatives report.
Well, thank you for having us again. It's awesome for us to be here, especially because we're able to create all these materials for the board, which will be used by our next student council presidents in the future. So it's been a hectic month at the high school. We began our month with homecoming week, followed by a shortened week filled with field trips and parent-teacher conferences, and then some other hiccups along the way. But we finally made it almost through the month.
So our month started off with our homecoming festivities, which included our powder puff, bonfire, pep rally, Spirit Olympics, and homecoming football game. Some results from our high school contests were seniors won first place for the banner, freshmen received first place for the float, and then seniors wiped the board with Spirit Stick, Spirit Olympics, and powder puff.
So for those that aren't aware, our council is part of the Wisconsin Association of School Councils. It's a statewide organization that we belong to every year. So this year the WASC is posting weekly Leadership 360 videos. So our club is watching those every meeting or periodically to really show our members how they can improve their leadership skills. So our first video will be watched at tomorrow's meeting. I've already watched it. It's pretty good. They're super short videos. They're only like 3 minutes, but they allow our members to really boost their leadership values. And then to continue with our monthly shout out for our club in our school, I chose the Gender Sexuality Alliance, or our GSA. For years, the staff realized the need for students to be represented. The mission of the Gender Sexuality Alliance is to provide a safe space for LGBTQ+ youth and assist the community with promoting equality. With that, GSA works to promote gender and sexuality positivity throughout the school to support a culture of inclusivity and push back against any discrimination that anyone might face. At this point, there's about 30 members. The club is promoted through word of mouth, but they're trying to increase awareness throughout the school and community. The community will begin to see GSA at work within Oriole TV. They're also going to be hosting get-togethers within the community outside of school. They're also planning on hosting promotional activities at school and even creating a banner or a mural within the high school to create awareness. Does anyone have any questions on our school's GSA?
How long has GSA been in North Fond du Lac?
So they started the club at the end of last year.
Okay.
I spoke with our counselor and librarian. They're our advisors for that club. They really found the need for it even before COVID, but after COVID, it really gave them a true opportunity to start that. So yeah, and then our department feature is our arts department, specifically the musical production. See, it'll be introduced a little later, but I personally have had the opportunity to work directly with Horace Mann's arts department with their production of Once Upon a Mattress. I'm in the pit, so I'll be playing band. There's 17 students in the cast, 22 in the crew, and 13 in the pit. The show runs next week, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 2 p.m., and tickets can be purchased at the high school office in advance to skip the line on show night. The tickets are $8 for adults, $6 for students and seniors, and children 3 and under are free. If anyone decides not to purchase in advance, the tickets are also available at the door. And then Friday afternoon, next week, Friday, Horace Mann students will be running through the show for grades, I believe, 2 through 5.
Yeah.
So that'll allow, our musical production team to really work through that, and gives us some good practice before our show on Friday. So this year's off to a great start. I can't believe we're almost done with October. It might just be because it's my senior year, but it's gone by really fast. So like previously mentioned, our continued goal is to further improve in communication and making the high school experience making the high school experience great for all students. So if you have any questions regarding our report, please let us know.
Aiden, what do you play? What instrument?
I'll be playing tenor and possibly soprano saxophone.
Who directs the pit?
The pit's directed by Miss Julia Lidery. The musical is directed by Mr. Anthony Rasmussen. The tech crew director is Miss Chris Klonderman, and the drama director is Miss Aarons, I think her name is. She's the music teacher at FLC.
Great, thank you.
How do you two do in the conference meeting? I think that's where the all conference stuff is set up, correct?
So that was by far my best meet.
Good for you.
I made sectionals. So before conference, I was our 8th runner. And then I bumped myself up to our 6th with a time of 19:51. So this was my first year doing cross country. I'm really glad I did that. But my first race was 23:30, and I've been able to bump that down to 19:51.
It's amazing.
At conference, I ran my personal best throughout all of high school. I ran a 17:07, placing 5th, which qualified me for first team all conference. And this year would be my 7th year doing cross country, starting in 6th grade and sticking it through all the way to senior year, which running back in middle school, I don't think I was picturing myself running through high school, knowing the practices, especially my freshman year, that change in intensity, but definitely glad I did it. Would have taken off 5 minutes from my first freshman year race to my last senior year race, so
Nice job.
thank you.
The program is really developed, and, obviously I've mentioned Sarah before, but the coaching and, it used to be, what I recall, it used to be just to get in shape for basketball season, and that's not the case anymore. I see, true runners and people who enjoy running and running for the sport and the competition of it, the health reasons, obviously, so well done.
Well, we definitely have a really good team behind and in front of each one of us, which is nice because, especially this year, because we've never really had that. I feel like there's always been a little error in our teamwork and all that, but I think this year would probably be our year that we broke that streak, so it was really nice. Good year.
Congrats.
All right, thank you. Item 8, approval of September Board of Education minutes, the regular board meeting of September 26th and the special board workshop of October 5th. Are there any changes or corrections to be noted in the minutes? Okay, then the minutes will stand approved as printed. Item I is the treasurer's report.
The cash balance on hand as of September 26th was $199,334.33. Receipts from 9/27 through 10/24 were $144,080, and transfers from investments account was $1.7 million. Total receipts of $2,043,414.33. Expenditures for the month were $1,820,244.60. And the cash balance on hand as of the 24th was $223,169.73. Total transactions for the month were $1,211,173.11, which was made up of pre-approved checks of $929,229.24 and board meeting checks of $281,943.87.
All right. And then as part of that is the approval of the list of bills. Any questions, first of all, on the bills? All right, and then I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
I'll second. You know, I think maybe just to be, noted, there often isn't questions about the bills because the board has the opportunity to ask those or get any more detail ahead of the meeting. So that happens quite a bit. So it's not that we don't have questions. It's just, several different ways that it comes about, and then the list is actually approved here at the meeting. So, all right, roll call.
Matthew,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes. Jaeger,
Yes.
Ackerman.
Yes.
All right, and item J, the clerk's report.
I have a donation from Colton Prep to Oriole Nation with a little note that I'm going to read because it's kind of cool. I'm an alumni of the North Fond du Lac School District and have recently opened my own realty business in the suburbs of Milwaukee. I would like to give back to the community and district in a small way. It is because of the wonderful administrators and teachers that I had throughout my years that have brought me to the place I am today. Thank you for all you have done. Please accept this small donation as a way of showing my appreciation to the district, and may it help in any way you feel. So, and then for Backpack Buddies, $50, Wayne Shingen, Beans and Bites, $425. I think that was from their little duck.
Yeah,
The duck, right? The doll you could buy.
that's nice.
Yeah. And then Denise Gation Brooks for $50. That is all I have. Thank you to all our donors.
All right. Item K is citizens' comments, and not seeing anybody here that's citizen to comment. Open and close that at 7:40. And move along to item L, superintendent's report. Matt,
All right.
it's all yours.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. This can be pretty quick because Aiden helped me out a little bit, which is awesome. And I think this is also mentioned too by Rick. The first note is just coffee with the superintendent. We're trying to create opportunities for community members, family members, students, whatnot, to just meet and talk about certain things that are going on within their world, but also be able to ask questions, bring up topics. And it's really trying to create that bridge between those two worlds. As Rick also noted, Lauren Biolo, the FLC principal, is also doing this a couple times, trying to get Mr. Gonzalez as well as Ms. Freeman to start this up too a little bit, but we're working on that for second semester. So we'll be there at some point in time. I think it's just important that we have that opportunity for public to come in and chat and have a conversation. So changing the time a little bit, just so everybody knows, it's gonna be 5 p.m. Future going through this because Beans and Bites is only open so long too, and we wanna make sure that we have that hour to be able to spend in there, or even if we need to go a little bit longer. I think we stayed longer the last time, actually almost beyond the closing time. We didn't even realize it, and she was coming out and giving us like desserts that she still had for the night, and we were like, oh yeah, we'll have some of these. But they're so great, and it's awesome that they're able to have that place and location for us to be able to make that happen. The second part is board communications and school building visits. I guess this is more for everybody in the room here as far as the board. If you want to come in and visit like a school, all you have to do is write email to that principal or principals and just say, hey, I'm interested in coming in. Would you mind giving me a tour? Or if you have something specific you want to look at, you have that ability to do so. So that's kind of your entry point of just writing that email, asking about a tour, whatever you might want to do, and see what their schedule looks like and make that happen. Obviously, if there's specific things going on that you want to see and check things out, again, write in, and hopefully we're inviting you to these things as well so that you can come in and see what's going on as well. So it's just more of a reminder to get into some of the schools, and if you have the time to see some of the many, great things that are happening on the daily for all of our students. But I think it's just a good thing for us to be able to share that story and of learning for everybody as well. So taking advantage of that. Safety committee update. What we started, we started something new just about a month ago, or less than a month ago, and we realized that just looking at consistency across the board from the elementary level, even 4K level, to the high school, we didn't have consistency in language. We didn't have consistency in just in general, just how we get things done in terms of safety. And so what we did is we orchestrated a team of different peoples from each of the buildings, and we brought different voices into this as well. Everything from administrators to staff members to teachers to you name it on this committee to really start exploring what we can do and how we can do it better within our region. This is the, let me see if I can get this a little bit. There we go. So this is our mission and vision. We will analyze, reflect, modify, and create consistent common safety plans and resources for all schools and NFDL so that we, the NFDL school community, will be as best prepared and as safe as possible at all times. So really re-examining what we have this past week. It's also allowing us to re-examine even deeper. We only have had one meeting so far. These are some of the players that are on this. Our next meeting's in November, but we've got everything from our village police department, our fire departments in this as well. So a lot of amazing players. And you notice there's a lot of people on here. And our first meeting was really about just kind of getting our foundation where we were at. We were looking at our old safety plan as a district. We did some plus and deltas with that. We looked at the emergency response plan. We started putting together some, things that stoplights. What are we doing really well right now? What do we have to get better? And then what do we have to stop doing? So as a result of this meeting, we created teams or sub teams that we're gonna have. And the teams all have different levels. One of them is communication. So information, messaging, how are we getting to that? What does the communication look like when we have events like that to the other schools? And these are some gaps that we have to still work on, and it's going to be creating that within that arena. We'll also have another sub team called jobs and teams. Basically, what are those responsibilities and expectations of every player involved? So everything from your district superintendent all the way down to you name it, an aide in a classroom. How does that work and what does that look like? And then finally, there's going to be training and / common language sub-team. So what kind of training do we still need? How do we need to get better at some of these things? And what's some common language that we're using across all 3 levels? So that when we go from one building to the next, it's not a change in how we're talking about the safety within our arena. So our kids and our staff are all on the same page when we get done. So our next meeting is actually tomorrow, though, based on last week's events, and we're just trying to come together, and really it's going to be just a touch base of how do we perform expectedly, and then what are some things that we need to work on, what are some things that we're doing well, and then what are some of those gaps that we can kind of fine tune now before the November 14th meeting so people can get that information out there. But again, consistency all the way across the board. Our first meeting was a really great meeting to bring everybody in and just get some idea. I'm facilitating this group right now. We'll pass it on to someone eventually in the future, but we just want to get things started and make sure that we get to that same spot. Any questions about the safety committee meeting? We will meet on the monthly until we're going to fine tune, and we'll be bringing that next emergency plan back to you in I think it's June, but we'd like to get that done before that. So we're all on the same page, and we're basically letting everybody know within our district what's going on. Okay. All right. What we got next? Musical dates coming up. Once Upon a Mattress. Aiden filled in a lot. It's really exciting too that our younger students within the district and come up and see the amazing work that the cast members have been doing. The amount of time people, I guess we don't realize sometimes how much time is put into all this, from, you know, set to lighting to pit crew to all the acting. I mean, hours upon hours, and they put so much time in. And it's something, if you haven't been in it, it's hard to notice that. And being, you know, in my former life in the drama world too, I get to experience that world, from lighting to pit crew to actually being on stage. And the amount of time that you have to put in is great. But it's so important that we get out and also are there for our students and recognize our students and celebrate that too, because it's an awesome event. Just like the conference meet, Steve, I mean, it's just being able to get out there and celebrate them too at this time. So if you get the chance, please take a moment on one of those evenings or that afternoon to just celebrate the school and celebrate the students for all their work. And so excited to see it myself. And it's been a few years since I've seen this musical. It was a long time ago, but I have seen it before, which would be good to see everybody again. Any questions about that? All right, so the next topic is what we talked a little bit about just in our former, I think it was at the end of our annual. We're trying to figure out ways that we can best support our students, you know, not only in learning, but also social, emotional, and then supporting them as they're moving along with their journeys and their worlds. And so when I looked at, and when we were looking at just our expulsion process, we saw some things, you know, that we just wanted to look and compare to other school districts and get some, you know, information from other places so that we could see that we were doing the best that we could possibly do to support our students and all of our students. And looking at several different school districts, everything from school districts our size to school districts that are smaller, school districts that are bigger, all of them had some kind of middle ground between the expulsion and the suspension. And so we want, in terms of when we're looking at student alcohol and other drug abuse. So we're looking at a different platform and a different way of processing of that situation for all of our students who are going through this. And so from that, we devised a model that was very similar to some of the other districts to look at how can we give students like a real fair shot of, hey, you made the mistake. Okay, here's some consequences that are resulting from this. How can we support you to get better, get you back on track into the learning and then through, but not saying that it's just an automatic here, you're coming right back from like a suspension situation. So I'm just gonna walk you through a little bit of this so you have a little bit of understanding. So there's two different things here. We're looking at AODA, so drugs and other alcohol violations. So that on level 1, and this is, we're looking specifically at regular education right now. Your first offense, so possession of lookalike, alcohol, mood-altering drugs, non-prescribed drugs, or paraphernalia, can lead you to a pre-expulsion hearing. And so basically that means is you're gonna meet, or that individual will meet with the superintendent, will meet with that building principal, we'll probably meet with a counselor or another staff member in that arena, and then we'll have, you know, a reporter in there to walk through the whole scenario. That person will be like suspended up to 5 days, with that being within that time, that hearing could happen, depending on how fast we move and like get the information together and make sure we're set. Within that time frame then though, at the meeting, we're sitting down, the purpose of it is to say like, hey, this is a meeting that we're gonna walk through with you to say that these are some of the possible agreements that we're looking at to try to further support you so that you can get the help you need and then continue your learning on in your future.
You didn't mention, but I think the parents are in there as well. Right?
Yes, parents and the student are in there. It's not just the student themselves. So yes, the parents attend to this. They're there, they have all their information. And then what we do is we go through the incident that happened. And this is done by the principal. We go through, you know, the attendance, their grades, behaviors, things, and some staff members write up some comments about like how that student's doing in their classrooms and things like that currently. After that, then I ask like 5 questions, just basically asking them, you know, what was your intention or what happened during that time? Have you thought about this since that time? Who have you affected by this incident? How are you going to repair this incident in your own mind? And then do you have a trusted adult in the school that you can go to? And really, learn off of that and we hear some of that information. But then as a following up to that, and depending on what we get in that conversation, because this can at any time go to expulsion at any time in the meeting. We can say we're just going right to expulsion, or we're going to continue the pre-expulsion hearing. At the end, then we give an abeyance agreement. And what the abeyance agreement basically says is here's a list of criteria that you have to complete or continue through your pre-expulsion period that you have to uphold. And so things like you got to go to an outside counselor for AODA and treatment / just a general look into how you're doing. You got to have a release of your records to the school from that doctor so we know what's going on within that frame. You could have random searches. We could limit that person from attending events. We could double down on like the code and, if they're in extracurriculars, where are they at and how can we, work through that with them. We could do, even anything from, random drug tests with their local provider saying, hey, you got to go out and do this during that time. So there's certain criteria. It's not just the suspension and we just say, oh, you can go back. They have to follow all those and sustain all those for the time that they are. If they don't, we go back to the expulsion and then we hear it through the expulsion frame. So any of those things would happen. So as you notice here, if they follow through this, then they return to school. The parent gardener will have that work and upon returning, they'll have all those things in place. If it doesn't happen, if these things don't happen, here's where the line goes back to the expulsion hearing. This will be held within 15 days of that time, right? If there's a second violation, second offense, then we're automatically going to the expulsion hearing. Then we'll have the meeting that we've always had here in North Fond du Lac. As well as if there's any distribution or intent to deliver, automatic, right to the expulsion hearing. If we look at special education, a little bit different frame. So, and this is an older model, so I have to apologize. So when they have their first offense, what they do first off is go through a manifestation hearing, not the pre-expulsion. So there is a different form that's updated. In that manifestation, that team of special ed teachers, staff, IEP team, family, parents, you name it, are in that meeting. They're trying to decide whether or not that behavior is a manifestation of their disability. So meaning if their disability caused that infraction to happen or caused them to make that choice, then it would be a manifestation of the behavior. And then what we would do as that team, or that team would then think about, like, how do we help that student in our current setting to have a least restrictive environment where they can continue their learning going forward. If it's not a manifestation of the behavior, then it goes to the pre-expulsion hearing. And it goes through the same process that I just talked through. And then after that, if it doesn't go through the expulsion here, pre-expulsion, we go to the expulsion hearing if it has to happen. Questions about this? I talked through it kind of fast, but I just want to show you like process and how we're walking through these moving forward here in North Fond du Lac.
I have two.
Mhm.
One is in our instance, Officer Sean, is he involved in any of this, or SRO, or what?
So our SRO is involved in the immediate investigation.
Okay, and then not in the meeting.
Not in the pre-expulsion.
Okay.
No.
And then so they.
He would be involved in an expulsion hearing. So if we had that, we'd have him testify. Correct.
So then with the so we have the meeting, right? They have to do all of these things, and so do we move to expulsion if one of them so how much time are we giving them to, or we're not? So they have to do these things, and if one of them is like
the only thing that we give a little bit more lenience is what we were talking about is like if you have to find a counselor and try to get into a counselor's appointment, they have to let us know that they're going to get that counselor's appointment. They're registering for us, and here's the date that we're going to have that happen. So that's the only thing that. Everything else is like it starts right away as soon as they return. Does that answer your question?
I guess.
Tell me more.
All right, so pre-expulsion, 5 days.
Potential up to 5 days.
Up to 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after the 5 days, they're coming back to school with a list of things they have
under that
to
agreement. Correct.
do under the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so besides setting up, whether they miss one, whether they, I don't know, attend an event that they're not supposed to go to, or, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is it just like one and done?
It's subject to be
Okay,
checked, okay? I mean, and I think we've got to think about like, what was your intentionality or rationale, or where are you at? You know that these are the things. I think it would have to be, had a conversation obviously with the building.
individualized.
Correct.
Which is, and it's not, I like this. My concern is, well, how come they got to do it and we didn't? I mean, if it was, hopefully we're not giving two people that in this, right? But you know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. I'm just saying, so like if they can't attend a basketball game, right? They can't, and this other person, you know, we just kind of went through that a little bit. Well, how come this happened to mine? And
So you're saying
that now
consistency in
happened?
terms of the agreement?
Yes.
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 And that's what we will have. And the only change would be is if it was marijuana, under the influence of marijuana, okay, then there's more the random drug tests. Okay, that would be the only thing that would be added on to that list that I was just sharing with you before. It's also up to the discretion, I mean, technically it's up to the discretion of the building principal and the superintendent to walk through to say what makes the most sense in this story to best help the student move forward.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't be worried about being totally consistent. I'd be worried about being fair. You know,
Yeah.
every case is a little bit different, and as long as you're fair, you don't necessarily are consistent, but you're fair.
And I think this process gets us to more fair and also helps our kids, you know, understand, hey, we're gonna make mistakes, but at the same time, there are consequences. At the same time, how can we support you moving forward?
Matt, after the 5 days, there's the 15-day.
Mhm.
So would you be able to use that if you got things decided and didn't go to expulsion? Is that 15 days still available?
You mean, if we didn't go to expulsion, we keep them out for 15?
Well, maybe if you didn't know yet, or if you're still putting it together, or circumstances, you know, because initially you can suspend for 5 days.
Right.
And then if leading to possible expulsion, you have another 15 days out, correct?
Yeah, our thing would be like, we gotta move as fast as we can after. So in all of these cases, we have to be ready for expulsion on the turn. So getting out to you, getting our setup, our lawyer, everything else. So we're ready to go after that, the template and everything else that walks through that. So it's not gonna be it's up to 15 days. We wanna move as fast as we possibly can to, you know, keep those days down and then get the right programming potentially for that child.
Okay, and then is this just for AODA violation? Because there are other things.
This is AODA, yes.
So, for example, a weapon or
Weapon
something.
goes automatically to expulsion. Yeah, and that's in the
Expulsion.
board policy, so
Okay.
it's a little bit more defined, whereas this is not as defined in board policy as those other areas.
Okay.
Any other questions on this right now? All right. Okay, so my last thing is future board agenda items. I'm looking forward to November because we get to cover some stuff about achievement, and I know we haven't done a lot of that in here. And then one of the big reasons is one of those data points are our state scores. Our state report card will be reported by then. Okay, what we'll do is Adam Broughton will walk through the components of that state score and then show some past scores and how this all reflects. But start the process of kind of understanding, like, this is one blip of information, and then what are those two other blips that we're going to use for triangulation moving forward. And our strategic plan will also assist with that, saying, here's our measurables. Like, Rick, I don't know how many times you brought it up, but like having some kind of measurement, but it's good. I mean, we need to say, like, this is the measurement for this so we know what's going on. That's what we have to do too, to share that out. And that's really why building principals haven't been in here yet, because we haven't had those, like, here's the 3 things that you're focused on. This is where we're going to come in. This is what we're going to talk about. we just got done having a really good conversation about what are those behavioral components that they want to share with you. So they just outlined like 3 blips that they said, we want to share this with the board. All 3 of them will share the same blips so that you can see what that data is. And then if you have questions about that, but they'll be doing that on the quarterly with their achievement score. So it's going to be behavior, achievement, and then moving on to the next. So it should be like 10 minutes, let alone 10, 15 minutes with all 3, but you might have questions too, which is fair.
Can we make sure when they report on like the behaviors that are playing into those results, that we just don't lose that, meaning like, hey, this is a behavior we did, and then next quarter, well, here's a different behavior. I want to know, like, I personally love to see what happened as we went on with that behavior, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm explaining myself right. But.
Yeah, so like, let me ask this question back then. So are you saying like, if we had a fight?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you saying what happened to those students, or are you saying what happened with the numbers of fights the next month, or?
I think the second more than the first. I'm thinking more like if we dropped 30% in fights, what were the things that we put in that contributed to that? And then next period, let's still have a little bit more of that if that's continuing to impact it, or what new ideas came up. Does that make a little bit?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think the results are going to be great, but it's going to be the behavior piece. So, okay.
And just so everyone knows too, we're trying to get on the same language consistency across all 3 buildings too. We're making some moves, and that AMP group, the mental health component that Carrie Nitz and others have been working on for quite some time. Now all the district is together now talking. So each building is in the same room, and we're talking what does the behavior look like at every level? What does the language look like at every level? Because right now it's 3 different zones, and we got to continue. This is like, I could be a broken record for every safety, behavior, achievement. All those things have to get on that same tune as we're going forward here. But
I guess the other thing is, it can be a learning process, so it'll evolve, but to try to stay as consistent as we can between years so we can get trends going. Like I know Samantha sent out that spreadsheet last year with, all the seniors in there, whether they're career ready or college ready, and their ACT scores, all that stuff. She had tabs going back for 4 or 5 years, whatever it was.
Right.
So I went through and tried to put an analysis together, and then I get told, well, the criteria for graduation and career ready changed between this year and this year, this year and that year. So you can't compare. Well, that's what I want to know, is that, are we getting better or worse or the same? And so really thinking it through beforehand so we can stay consistent year after year as much as possible to see how we're doing.
And I think we got to get more laser-like than we have been and get into literacy and math, and then drilling down like what's specific in literacy and math that we can actually assess, over a 3-year period. It's not just going to be one and, we're flipping to something else next year. We really got to stay focused in one area so we can actually see the development and the patterns that you're talking about.
With the principal reports, how are those going to be delivered? Over historically, the principals or administrators have attended the monthly meetings, and after the pandemic, I guess we started doing the virtual thing. So, and they're not here tonight, and I'm just kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
So it'll be quarterly, Steve. So we'll have once a quarter, and they'll report out again the behavior and achievement, and they'll have I think each of them will have 5, 7 minutes to present that information or that data. And then what we can do is go back and ask questions specific to each of the buildings, but every single component is going to be the same, so that it's not going to sound like 3 different presentations. The only thing that'll change is the data that's in the presentation. If that makes understanding. So if we talk about majors and minors of referrals for every single, and they're going to be talking about that at FLC, they're going to be talking about it at BAMS, and they're going to talk about Horace Mann. So all 3 of those will be shared. Does that answer your question, Steve? Or?
No, actually, I meant, will they be here?
Yes.
In person or virtually, or will it be in a packet? Or
they will be in here.
Okay.
Yeah, because they will be presenting out that data.
And that's just going to be quarterly?
Quarterly. And it would be nice, I don't know if we're going to get there, even to maybe in December to get a behavior one out there. I mean, and we start with behavior and then we'll move into the next quarter with behavior and achievement because we'll have the strategic plan a little bit more succinct and have that information for you as well. Okay. Other than that, I think we're gonna do celebration of fall athletes next month and then also talk a little bit about insurance. So more to come.
Okay, item N, new business. Number 1 is to discuss and consider winter letters of assignment.
So this is the names and positions of all the coaches that we pay for winter coaches that just need to be approved within the sector. And so you're looking at those and giving approval or discussion to that as well.
Do we have a JV girls coach?
For
That's not
basketball?
on here. Yeah, I didn't know if we
Yeah, I
approved
saw
that.
that. I don't know.
No, that's
Well, that's-
assistant varsity.
So
Which one are
maybe,
you?
JV,
Isn't that Nate?
well, it's Nate, I mean,
But he's not on the list.
yeah. All the boys has like, Nate, head coach, Nolan, assistant varsity, and Diesel, JV. And
Mm-hmm.
girls, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, holy.
Well, is Nate not gonna be the assistant?
There's gotta be a JV coach.
Yes.
I'm just, what's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, there's gotta be a JV coach. It's
Okay.
probably just not on this doc right now. So, I mean, I don't see why we'd have an assistant or JV coach up here and not in the girls
Well, and you've
section.
been doing it forever,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, I see.
So we'll add that to talk to Jake and make sure that's in there as well.
All right,
Cover the team strength.
any other discussion? All right,
If, I guess before, just as you pointed that out, the strength and conditioning, you see the totals under that a little bit. This is that person that's gonna be working with those kids 3-4 days a week, opening up the weight rooms, getting a strength program together and conditioning program together for students. So, this is under the tutelage of Jake, but at the same time, our powerlifting individual who that coach is also gonna be doing that work with our kids. This is gonna be fundamental for building program. I mean, we've gotta get kids into that zone. And it starts now, like even though the fall sports are just done, it's like now you're getting back into the program. I know people are exhausted maybe a little bit, take a little break and then get in there because this is really where it makes a difference for the upcoming season, for next year even for that matter. So very important to programming.
all right, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the winter letters of assignment.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? And roll call?
Goldowski, yes. Geckerman,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Jaeger.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So item 2, discuss and consider adoption of budget and total school levy and tax rate.
Maria's back on the turn for Maria. She was there right there.
So what you have in front of you is the budget revision to the budget adoption that you just adopted last week. We do this every October, and it is because of the timing of the information that we get from DPI. So on October 15th, we got the final equalized aid value, and that value changes a lot of numbers in the budget. So again, we do this every October. So what I tried to do is I highlighted all of the items that changed from the budget adoption. And then I gave a really brief explanation as to why it changed or how it changed. Some of the big takeaways though are the deficit updates, which again, this information is so fluid, it can change daily. So for example, the deficit, if the referendum, if the operating referendum passes, according to this document, it would be around $94,000 deficit. Now, Friday, I found out that we got an E-rate reimbursement So what we did was we applied for it's not really a grant, but it's, we can apply for a reimbursement for equipment, technology that we know that we're gonna be purchasing for the school year. And we applied way back, I wanna say like February, and we just got notified that we got $90,000 toward our Chromebooks. So that is not in the budget because I just found out about it on Friday. So this is kind of how our revenue is coming in, and we'll take it any way we can get it. But this is how fluid this budget is. So that's just one example. But as you go down the budget document, again, I just gave you really brief explanations as to what changed. One of the bigger ones is under the state source 600, where you see the big $13 or $13 million number. That's where our state aid is, along with other revenues. But that went down by over $100,000 based on what was projected. So, and then that trickles into what our taxes will be because our revenue limit is still the same. So, so that was one of the big changes. And then Rick, I took one of your comments from last week about Fund 21 and how that was confusing and it threw off our expenditures. So what I did is I went back and I did put in expenditures and revenues for Fund 21. I just took, whatever Oriole Nation is going to give to each account, as well as what the account balances are in all of the other Fund 21 accounts. So those are like our donation accounts, or our clubs. And then I assumed in a lot of those accounts that they're gonna spend out their budgets. So we'll, it's as close as I'm gonna be able to get at this point, but it does stabilize those expenditures. It's not off by 500,000 anymore. So I wanted to take that into consideration. That was a really good point. We talked a lot the first hour of the meeting from 6 until 7 about the levy rate. And I just wanted to point out one more time. Last week we talked about if the referendum passes, our levy rate, what I was proposing was $8.15. And if it does not, it would go to $7.83. Now tonight, the $8.15 I'm proposing, that would stay the same, but if the referendum does not pass, it would go to $7.40. And Mike and I worked on this quite a bit last week, and he doesn't need that extra over levy amount for the debt. They didn't figure that into the debt calculation and into those payments. So so that's the main reason we're going to the $7.40, and then that adjusts the entire school levy. Let's see. The general fund in that last box where we're looking at the levies, the general levy went up by 104,000, and that just shows where the equalized aid went down by $100,000. That means that our tax levy then has to go up by about that same amount because the revenue limit is what it is. So just a little school finance for you. Those are the big changes in the budget. Does anybody have any questions? There were little tweaks in open enrollment in and out as the other districts that are either sending their kids to us or they're leaving there and coming to us, they start to either deny them or accept those open enroll numbers. So those finally came in last week. And then our FTE changed very little. Those are all little tweaks that week of the 15th that happened. But other than that, those are the main changes to the budget. So what I'm recommending is approval of the budget as stated in the enclosed budget publication, as well as the total tax levy of $5,902,164 if the operating referendum passes, and $5,360,164 if the operating referendum does not pass.
You know, I have one small question that I didn't get to last time. At the bottom where we're talking about the levies for the different funds, on the debt service fund, it's like 2.327 million if the levy passes.
Right.
And 2.585 if it doesn't pass.
Right.
So we're levying more. I guess why aren't those numbers the same? Is it just to adjust the mill rate?
Yeah, and it gives us a little bit more flexibility. If the referendum does not pass, it gives us a little bit more flexibility if we need to go back to referendum in April.
Okay.
We don't want it to drop too much, because that would just be a big, it's a big lift. So it just gives us that little bit of flexibility.
Okay.
All right,
I was gonna mention next steps. This would get published. I'll clean it up without the notes and it'll get published. And the next, what I typically do is I will report to you either monthly or, as we have big changes to the budget. And one of those big changes I know is going to be insurance. I just got an email from Tim on Friday from the Horton Group, and they're still working on a plan for us. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like self-funding is going to work for us. They're getting back the stop loss insurance amounts, and they're really high. And that's based on the risk that they're willing to take. So that's not looking like an option for us. So he's working with our current provider, our current carrier, as well as other carriers. So we need to know in a couple weeks, because we need to do open enrollment really soon. So that will be one change that I'll bring to you. And then my plan is just to tell you how that impacts the budget, but we won't go through a formal budget revision until May. And then we'll go through this again. And then any other big changes, if we start to get revenue from the state, I'll let you know that. Any grants or anything like that. Those are the next steps. Any questions?
any further questions? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the adoption of the budget and total school levy and tax rate. But that would be the numbers that were included on this sheet.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Let me know when you're ready, or if you need something. Ready? All right, then roll call.
Beckerman,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Maffey,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes,
Kowalski, yes.
and then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Maffey,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Kowalski, yes. Jaeger,
Yes.
Beckerman.
Yes.
Motion approved, so we are adjourned.
Night, Oriole Nation.